Thank you, Bama. I'm going to keep riding Bama all the way through the culmination of this tournament.
Will you start betting on NC State, please? Come on. Get with the program. They are so hot right now.
Yes.
And by the way, such an enjoyable weekend to be in Raleigh, NC for Easter. Cannot even tell you.
I thought that Illinois was getting a lot of points, but 9 was not enough with UConn. But I'm having some fun. Having some fun. How about a little blackjack roulette or Texas Hold'em with a live dealer right on your phone? All the action and excitement from the casino right at your fingertips from wherever you are in the state of Michigan. Play Gun Lake online casino and sportsbook app. It's safe, it's simple, it's easy to use. Daily promotions, live dealers, and more. Play Gun Lake is part of Bet Parks. That's why I'm able to mention both. And it's the only app that I use and recommend. Hundreds of hot slots and table games, all your favorite classic casino games, and bet on your favorite sports. Get in on this action before the tournament is over. Odds and slots and bets and games, all right in your pocket. Great offer for new users. Download the Play Gun Lake online casino app right now and get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. That's for new users only, and the casino bonus has to be wagered. Terms and conditions apply. See the website, playgunlake.com, for all the details. Got to be 21, and in Michigan, gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Time now for some of the Monday headlines from the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. I really don't get this one. I mean, I understand wedge issues. I understand the cultural divide. I understand each side trying to drive its base. But coming out of Easter weekend, I just truly don't understand the brouhaha being made by some over the fact that the president issued a proclamation. It happened to coincide with Easter for recognizing transgenders and the discrimination that they face. And some people are just going nuts about this. From the Associated Press coverage, President Joe Biden facing criticism from Donald Trump's campaign and religious conservatives for proclaiming March 31st, which corresponds with Easter Sunday this year. Not deliberate. It's not like they went looking for, hey, when can we put our fingers in the eye of Christians by saying recognize transgender? Easter.
Transgender Day is the 31st, which isn't always Easter. It happened to be Easter this year. That's the deal.
The Democratic president issued a proclamation on Friday calling on all Americans. Okay, let's just look at the words. Okay. Let's just see what's objectionable about this. He issued a proclamation calling on all Americans to join us in lifting up the lives and voices of transgender people throughout our nation.
There you go.
And to work toward eliminating violence and discrimination based on gender identity. And then to former President Trump, that's blasphemous.
Well, right.
That's blasphemous.
Right. I'm going to send 77.
Where do I order one of those Bibles?
I know.
I need to read what his Bible says in it.
You need to read the Bible, wear the sneakers. I think that when you read that, though, the whole problem is just recognizing transgender as legitimate. And that is indeed the problem. It's such a small group. It's such a,
Speaker Mike Johnson on Saturday via X said that the Biden administration has betrayed the central tenet of Easter.
Wow.
Which is the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
How so?
I didn't explain.
Right.
He didn't explain. All he said was it was outrageous and abhorrent for the president to have done this.
Speaker Johnson, what would Jesus think of transgender individuals?
What would he think of you condemning what President Biden did?
Well said.
Former 2024 presidential candidate and businessman Vivek Ramaswamy echoed Johnson's attack in social media posts of his own. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, another former Republican presidential candidate, likewise sent a text to supporters accompanied by a donation slip saying that Biden had insulted Christians everywhere. Former President Trump campaign on Saturday joined the chorus by saying that the proclamation was blasphemous. By the way, I want to parse this too. We call on Joe Biden's failing campaign and White House to issue an apology to the millions of Catholics and Christians. How come Catholics and Christians are two separate things?
Fascinating.
Right?
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
And by
Is
the
it
way,
because
why are
Catholics
you,
are sort of by definition
why are you
sort of anti-trans, even though
But why
not
are you
all Catholics
calling
are?
for an apology for Catholics and Christians? But let's just say Christians. How about the Muslims? Why can't they get an apology too? How about Jews?
But officially, all Christians are not against trans. Some Christian churches are very
I'm
accepting.
just kind of curious as to why, if you think Christians,
because it's Easter. That's why.
it's also Ramadan.
I know, but that's a long.
Okay,
that's a
how
whole
could
month.
you do this in the middle of Ramadan?
That's a whole month.
I don't know. It's just nutty. I looked at the comments. The Associated Press version of this story, because it's everywhere, had 11,000 comments.
Wow.
Carson was the top commenter.
It's interesting. You say you don't understand it, and yet it is really a successful wedge issue.
Oh, no, I fully comprehend that this just inflames
It's
people.
unbelievable.
I just don't understand.
Is it?
I don't understand.
Is it fear?
Like, there are some things. Well, let me say this. Okay, let me just say something about that, because I've spoken about how this weekend I read Bad Therapy by Abigail Schreier, and Abigail Schreier's prior was Irreversible Damage: The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters.
Oh my.
Which is not the focus of this book, but I'm aware of the fact that she wrote that book. I understand and believe to be legitimate the debate, discussion, concern about at what age is what response appropriate. There, said nice and generic.
I think that's actually very well said, succinctly put.
Like,
and
that's an intelligent conversation to have, because I understand as a parent you don't want to make a mistake that later can't be undone.
Correct.
Totally
Surgical
legitimate.
interventions, medical interventions.
That's
What do
fine.
you do?
That's a
What do you
fine
do
conversation
to
to
keep your
have.
child
Yeah.
healthy when they say, this is not the body I'm supposed to be in. Here we are cisgendered, meaning like you and I, you know you're a man in a man's body. I know I'm a woman in a woman's body. Aren't we? That's so easy.
My heart breaks for any person who is dealing with gender dysphoria as any other issue that might make someone unhappy and cause them
whatever you need to do to be your legitimate self.
I don't get this. Honest to God, I don't. I've been doing this for 3 decades. I've seen issues come and go that fire people up. I don't understand why 11,000 people are posting comments on because there's a proclamation where President Biden says, hey, we need to look out for transgender people.
Yeah.
Carson, why do we keep addressing this group, which is 0.25% of the population, as if they were the majority? I believe everyone should have their human rights respected, but I don't need to have this group elevated above the others. No, we single out groups that are being discriminated against to remind one another that that's not the right thing to do, because that's not what Jesus would do.
It's not elevating them above, by the way. It's pulling them up to even keel. That's the difference.
Joe says, it's curious. No holiday, especially religious, should be designated as a day for any group.
It's not that.
Plenty of other days. Granted, for Easter is floating, but someone on staff should have raised the issue. He gave Trump an easy grounder. Let me just see one more. We should get rid of President's Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day, Grandparents' Day, Christmas Day, Labor Day. Of course, we have to keep Happy New Year's Day. Vote for the candidate who represents America and not the person that loves to hold money in their pocket. Okay. All right. Anyway, I don't get it.
Do you have a solve for it? Do you have a way to get away from this?
Somebody just didn't get the memo of the weekend. Maybe I didn't get the memo. I don't know. I wasn't. I was there on Friday. I always like the passion. I like the whole crucify him, the participation. I like this sort of scaled down, austere service. It was important.
You went to Good Friday services.
I went to Good Friday services because I knew that I was going to have difficulty for a whole host of different reasons attending Easter services. But I like Good Friday services. Yeah. It's a very unusual service.
Correct.
A very solemn service.
Sure.
So,
and then the celebratory nature of Sundays. In comparison.
But I feel like I understand what the weekend is all about. And I believe I'll go so far as to say that all these critics of the president don't. Like, they just totally, I don't know how. It's just so obvious to me. But okay, enough. Oh, one more. I got to say one. This is just in the religious realm.
Oh, good.
And then we will be beyond. can I just say to the Palestinian protesters who would disrupt a service at St. Patrick's Cathedral or any other religious service?
Correct.
You're not helping your cause.
At all.
You're not helping your cause. Like, just at a point where it seems like public opinion is tipping and people are saying, well, you know, it was horrific what was done to Israel on 10/7. And Israel needs to go and get those responsible for 10/7. But just to the point where people are saying, this has been going on for a while, and there's a lot of civilian death, and now the risk of starvation, and even the U.S. kind of stepped out and allowed the UN to pass that ceasefire resolution, just at a time when the public sentiment seems to be tipping towards sympathy for the Palestinian residents of Gaza. A protest like this that disrupts on an Easter service, St. Patrick's Cathedral, is just like tone deaf. Tone deaf. Okay, more headlines now from the Monday edition of the newsletter. Actually, let's go back, TC, and take a look. Oh, no. I want to do something else. I'm sorry.
Oh, here we go.
Before I get to all of that.
Okay.
I want to, if I don't do it now, I won't remember to do it.
Whoa.
Friday in the third hour.
He's going rogue.
Friday at the start of the third hour of the program, very proudly, I introduced some of the new bumpers that are associated with this program.
Here. You did great.
Reversed Seats with TC. I played the tunes. It's the Mingle music list, and I'm loving it. It's 10 hours worth. Thank you to everybody who played a role in the development, including the listeners of the Mingle music. And we're just about there where every time we come out of a commercial break, you are hearing a song with the intent of inspiring people to get together. That's it, okay? So with that in mind, I get this letter. I get an old school letter.
It's a letter.
Yeah.
With a stamp.
Dear Mr. Smerconish, as I listened to your February 23rd, 2024 POTUS broadcast, now this is not the one we just did.
Sure.
This was a prior version.
We had a conversation earlier.
I noted how excited you were when playing DJ. It dawned on me that you should not simply play DJ for a short segment on your excellent POTUS talk show, but rather you should play DJ for a few hours on a real, bona fide rock and roll station.
That is true. You should.
Better yet, I invite you to join me in studio as a guest DJ on the Ed Scales show. And here's the best part. The studio is in Key West, Florida.
Ed Scales.
Where for the past 25 years, I've hosted a live Sunday afternoon rock and roll radio show. Gang, this is not the best part of it. The best part, further down in the letter, he said, you may be wondering why this letter is on the letterhead of Florida's 3rd District Court of Appeal.
I just found it.
Well, I didn't think you would believe that I am probably the only appellate judge in the nation who is also a rock and roll DJ. Hence, as a lawyer broadcaster, I appreciate and share your excitement and enthusiasm about playing great rock and roll on the radio. So the Ed Scales show, Judge Scales, has invited me to come to Key West and spin tunes. Judge, if I should, the Honorable Edwin Scales, Chief Judge-elect of the District
Court of Appeal.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
So if I get to, thank you for tracking me down by Pony Express and putting this in my hand. If I get to Key West, and I have been there with my friend Pat Croce, I was there for Pat's 60th birthday. I'll never forget. Well, actually, I forget a lot of that night because, oh my God, it was Key West. But I had a lot of fun in Key West. And if I come back, Judge, I will be your guest DJ. It's really a great letter that he wrote me.
Okay, he is fantastic. And I'm looking at the Florida Bar News headline, Judges Who Rock.
Yeah, right. But again,
amazing.
I would say to Judge Scales and to all the listeners, remember now, at Smerconish.com, up in what I refer to as the masthead of the website.
Okay, the masthead.
you can click on the word music and you will see the Mingle bumper list and several other bumper affiliated song lists that we've compiled. They're great, they're fun, and you can put them on your playlist. All right.
So cool. So cool.
Friday, 23,427 votes were cast. Which side benefits politically from the Ronna McDaniel NBC flap? 59.18% said neither side. That was followed by Republicans. I was thrilled on Saturday that we broke 40,000 votes because it's kind of an egghead-ish issue. Should a Supreme Court justice ever time their retirement so as to influence the selection process of their successor? Justice Sotomayor is the oldest of the three remaining progressives. She's 69. She's only 69. And now some are saying, hey, she needs to retire now while Democrats control the White House and the Senate so that President Biden can choose her successor, because what if, God forbid, something happens to her and it's Donald Trump as president again? The court will now become 7-2 conservative. Yesterday, is college worth the cost? How about this? It was a 51-49 result. Very close.
I thought that was so interesting. And I wondered, sort of digging deeper, what the reasons were. Does it depend on the major? Does it depend on which college it is? If it's this much, and then does it depend on the job you get? I think it so depends. That's why it was so close.
I think it's a good reason to think about associate degrees, community colleges, and trade schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the story that I did on CNN and have talked about here is the one of how in certain New England schools, the so-called elite schools, it's $90,000 a year. And as I said to my guest on this, the rich can afford it, the poor get subsidized, and the middle class gets screwed. I mean, that's the gist.
The succinct summation
that is the gist
of the situation.
Today's poll question: should before you snicker. Remember, it's California. The things that they do, like 5 years later, people are like, hey, that's not a bad idea. Should other states follow California, raising its minimum wage for food workers to $20 per hour? Today is the day that begins. In the category of initiatives that begin in California, how about this one, TC? A California lawmaker who wants to help you ignore your boss when they call after hours. Yes, I'm sure.
Amazing.
Go ahead.
And we don't really have hours.
Right.
Because,
that's right.
I mean, that's really
all time is appropriate.
Correct. So radio is a little different medium, but it occurs to me, if people know the story of my being hired, that had that been a law, you would not have been able to part company with your former producer 100 years ago.
Because he was devoid of personality.
I know, but isn't the story that you asked him for a guest and he said, I don't work after 7 p.m. on a Sunday?
That did happen.
Correct.
Yeah, sorry.
Words that would never come out of my mouth. So that's the first thing I thought of.
I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say.
That was the Sunday, and then you called me on Monday and said, come in and see what it's all about.
Are you sure I didn't call you Sunday night?
You might have, and I answered. So I just thought that was hysterical. And also, we have
to do a segment on this.
I know I'm old-fashioned. My take on that was, okay, little snowflakes, give me a break. You know what I mean? I don't know. This whole work-life balance thing, I'm way on one side.
Please, would you invite Assemblyman Matt Haney?
Yes.
Perhaps he's related to Ben. I don't know.
I don't know either.
See,
we'll find out.
Few places have done more than the Bay Area, the center of the smartphone industry, to ensure that bosses can call, text, or Slack their workers all the time, nights and weekends included. But a San Francisco lawmaker wants to help curb the constant ringing and pinging that his region helped create. Mr. Haney is a Democrat. He got the idea from Australia's new right to disconnect law to be implemented later this year. It will allow workers to reject unreasonable professional communication outside their regular workday. The idea originated in France and has spread in various forms to countries including Canada, Italy, Belgium, and the Philippines. New York City debated a similar proposal in 2018, but did not adopt it. Cannabis, legal today in Germany, and that's no April Fool joke. They're saying, hey, if you can have a beer, why can't you smoke weed? And so, effective today, over 18 can possess up to 25 grams of cannabis in public. Adults can grow up to 3 plants per household. People won't be allowed to smoke joints within sight of schools, sports centers, or in pedestrian zones between the hours of 0700 and what would I say?
Uh-oh.
8 o'clock at
8
night?
o'clock p.m.
Yeah, I'll just go with the easier one. If you're going to Canada, if you're going up to Montreal, when you come back to the United States, be careful. Someone may have put a GPS device in your
warning
vehicle.
for monsters.
How come? Because they may want to track your car down and steal it. Beethoven's DNA.
So, I mean, obviously his parents are rolling over in their graves.
Beethoven's DNA reveals that he didn't inherit his musical talent.
Come on, how can they tell that?
From I'll read it to you. I don't quite understand it, but I'm the one who posted the story because I found it over the weekend and I loved it. These are folks at the Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville, working with colleagues from the Max Planck Institutes for Empirical Aesthetics in Germany and Holland. That sounds awfully impressive and official.
I believe whatever they say.
They analyzed Beethoven's DNA from a hair sample that was extracted from a different study last year. They set out to investigate his genetic musical predisposition, an ability to closely related to musicality, comparing his DNA to 14,500 other people in databanks. They used his recently sequenced DNA to calculate a polygenic score as an indicator for his genetic predisposition for beat synchronization.
How about that?
Interestingly, Beethoven, one of the most celebrated musicians in history, had an unremarkable polygenic score for musicality, ranking between the 9th and 11th percentile on modern samples.
So
I don't know.
Here's what I think.
Sounds interesting.
If you have a passion for something, just go for it. That's what I think.
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, that's my take on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, lots of great headlines today in the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. I thank you for being a subscriber. It is free, it is worthy, and we will see you later.